My name's Janet Pritchard, and I've always had a thing for fish. It's been one of those strange continuities throughout my life where I've always been into fish. Back in 2004 I started with the native fish strategy as the Victorian native fish strategy coordinator. Back at when the strategy was just starting to take off and when we were actually first going out and talking. And I remember at first being quite a little bit confused about what my role was going to be, because the commission was the native fish strategy. I was employed by the University of Canberra. I worked with the Arthur Ryal Institute, and I was with the Department of Sustainability and Environment in Bendigo, and there were so many different organisations it was confusing. And then I was sitting with John Kewan, and John Kewan was describing what the job would be, and he put it in essence was, your job is to look after the fish and represent the fish's interests. And instantly it became really clear for me, I didn't have to worry about all the other issues that were going around. My job was to look after the ecology and the needs of the fish. And that's actually stayed with me through the last 10 years, because I've actually been in a lot of different roles in the native fish strategy. I was a couple of years in Victoria, and then I had a go at being a researcher and doing some of the consultancies, some of the research consultancy with the native fish strategy. I moved across to New South Wales and the ACT and was a coordinator in the New South Wales and ACT. And then I moved across into the Murray Darling Basin Commission to manage the research portfolio of the native fish strategy. And then I even had a shot for 4 or 5 months of actually running the show and being the director, which was great. And then in between that 10 years, I've actually had a couple of kids as well. So for me, I've been in Victoria, I've been in New South Wales, I've worked with researchers from all around the basin, and I've been in the job and the hot seat, if you like, of trying to keep the strategy going and moving and coordinators and CST together. So I've seen not only the growth of the NFS, but I've actually seen it through lots of different lenses. So for me, it's been a really amazing sort of journey to be part of. The thing for me that's kept it throughout is you're here to look after the fish and the ecology and the care about the rivers for the future. And it's also been about the people, because the strategy brings in all these community people, all these government people, but there's a respect for people, and what we have in common is that we care about fish. And we have a sense of vision, no matter whether we're fisheries or we're conservation or we're a landholder, we actually care about the fish in the rivers. So there's a common vision, no matter who you are, everyone wants to see healthy rivers. We have a sense of belonging. You feel like we call ourselves the extended family because it feels like a family. There's people who feel like members of the family. They know your kids and you see them over 10 years. It's not that we're completely a clique, but at the same time, by being exposed and working with community and working with all the different governments, you get to know one another over 10 years. So there is a real sense of belonging. And the other thing for me is just there's been a huge sense of control, and that's that no matter where you are or what you're doing, you have control over what your contribution is, no matter how big or how small. So the Sea to Hume Fishways is a multi-million-dollar project on one whole scale. At the other scale, you've got going out and talking to schools or progress clubs, and sometimes just that one conversation like I originally had with John Kewan, those few words can crystallise in someone's head and actually change the way things and the way you view the world. So for me, it's all about contributions from people at a whole range of different levels. So the NFS is more than a program. It's never been just a program. It's actually a group of Australians who care about the fish in their rivers, and I think that'll keep on no matter what. And I still remember a time in 2008 when we were doing a Native Fish Awareness Week in New South Wales. I'd just come back from maternity leave and there was a whole heap of travel involved, but it wasn't an obstacle for me as a young mum to come back and be part of the workplace. In fact, I got to take my husband and my baby along on this field trip. In essence, the Awareness Week, we were out talking to communities. So we were travelling all the way from Canberra through Albury all the way up to Tamworth, and I had my partner and baby in tow. And I'd be off doing my speaking and my presentations, being part of the group, and then at night time, or at breaks, then the family would catch up and we'd have family time. And during that trip, it was amazing because there was a time, it was at Jennifer's first birthday, and we were up on Kamilaroi country up near Tamworth. And when the Kamilaroi people found out that it was Jennifer's birthday, there was an impromptu naming ceremony. So they sat down, Jennifer took off her socks, sat her down in the mud, got some water from the river, poured some water into the mud, made a little pool of mud, and then they got the mud and then they circled her arm, circled her leg, circled her cheek, and they had a naming ceremony for my daughter, who they didn't know. It was her first birthday, and that was incredibly special for me and my husband to be part of. And you feel that real connection to part of the basin that you wouldn't normally feel a connection to. And that's something that Jennifer can be proud of, I think, for the next, her whole lifetime, that she had a naming ceremony. So that's a big thing for me.